Welcome back to Sidewalk, Skyline podcast. Today I'm really looking forward to talking to my friend Michael and his wife of 1 year, Lisa. And they're both entrepreneurial business people here in Windsor. We're going to talk about some of your business things that you guys have done, but what I'm really interested in is the story that's been trickling in from you, Michael, about just some of the miracles of how God has been at work in your lives. And this episode is going to air on February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day. So this will be our Valentine's episode.
Perfect.
Love it.
Yeah. Michael Difazio is the founder of Reclaim Artistry and Lisa Shurrock of Elite Music Studios and Teaching School. And I'm going to, just because out of familiarity, I'm just really starting to get to know Lisa. But Mike, I want to start the round of questions off with you.
For sure.
And with a little bit of history.
Yeah.
2010 would have been when we first met. New Song Church here was hosting a local music venue that was known as Hardcore Church. For 3 years, we opened our doors to the hardcore, screamo, metal, nondescript genre bands that were emerging locally. And it was an effort for us as a church, really an effort in community building. My youngest son, Levi, of course, played in a band called Faithful Unto Death. And he and his bandmates, for them, being able to play shows here and inviting their friends, inviting other bands, it really was a young expression of where they were at in terms of their faith. And the reality back then was, for a lot of the hardcore bands and screamo and that kind of thing, it was really hard to find a suitable venue. If you went to do a show at a community center or in somebody's basement,
Lots of those.
Joey's,
yeah.
Then you'd have like 75 people out on the sidewalk after the show or on a break, and neighbors would be all tense. What are all these scary looking young people doing in our neighborhood? And then if the bands went to play at some of the dive bars that were around, you'd go, if you're a musician, you go in to play, and the sound man could care less. You're just some young punks, and he'd turn the system on, but he wouldn't serve the band. He wouldn't give them a good mix.
No, nothing.
As long as he liked what he heard, but he didn't worry about monitors and things like that. Or some of those dive bars, and I went to some of the shows, you'd walking through the bathroom and your feet are sticking to the floor.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just not a real great environment.
Yeah. Greasy.
So we said, a few of us got together and we said, why don't we host shows here? Faithful Unto Death, they can be kind of the house band, that hosts the shows, and then we developed a community contract. So if anyone was gonna play here, we had bands, and I don't know if you remember this, but we just had a simple one-pager saying, if you're gonna do a show here, don't use our stage to promote violence, and don't use it to promote substance abuse, and use this as a place to build community in the scene. And that was the gist of it. And we didn't have any bands that said, "Oh no, we won't sign that."
Right.
For anybody listening to the podcast that doesn't know about screamo, how would you describe it?
you know, it's different when you're young. Like I still listen to it, to be honest, every now and then, even though my music taste is all over the map now. But I mean, when you're young, it's just, I don't really know. It's an expression. It's like a way to express yourself, I guess. So it's loud, it's in your face, it's not clean cut, but that's kind of like the purpose of it. Yeah. It's like you didn't need to be cool or like really good at anything to do it. And, you know, like I'm not very good guitar player. I'm not very good at singing either, but I was able to do it, you know. Yeah. We were able to do all these things, but it was always the community that always meant so much to me, with the scene, with the shows, with the people that you got to meet, and I still see them all the time now. Yeah. You know. And you guys always did a really good job hosting all sorts of bands, all sorts of things that, you know, that even didn't necessarily align with the values that you had. But I do remember the contract that you had there. I remember like we had to talk about it as a band and be like, I don't really remember what we thought about it or anything back then, but it was different.
Just sign it. We want to play.
Right. That was pretty much what it was. It was like, whatever they need, just do it. Yeah, whatever. And it's funny because I remember you said that Faithful Unto Death was the house band, and I remember the shows here were insane when they played. Yeah, it was the house. It was like they were the house band because like there was the soundtracks, the light shows, the everything that they had, and they would play, and we'd be like, "What is happening? It's crazy." So much different. It was awesome though. You guys did a really good job tying the community together for sure.
Yeah, and there was the odd person that raised their eyebrow. You know, why are we having this in our church? You know, kind of thing. But the fruit of it is, some of those relationships that were formed. I still bump into people all the time that are like your age that came to the shows back then, and it just established this sense of community that you don't have to be afraid of. Churches from the outside can look intimidating, right?
Right.
And but yeah, it was a lot of good memories. Well,
for sure.
Yeah. So when Hardcore Church ended, some of the people involved were moving on to other things, and it had its run for about 3 years. But after it ended, about a year later, you ended up moving onto the street to start your business, right? Mm-hmm. And talk a bit about Reclaim Artistry and why you came to Drouillard Road. In 2014, it was tamer than it once was, but it was still kind of a desolate place, lots 100%. Of boarded up buildings. Yep. And so what brought you here, and talk about your business?
So I grew up down here. Like I grew up on Henry Ford. I don't know if you even know that.
Now I do.
Yeah. So I grew up in the
street
neighborhood.
Over.
Yeah, 1 street over. Other side of the train tracks, but it was right on Seminole and Henry Ford. So I went to Brennan and I went to St. Bernard. Those two high school, grade school. But like we weren't really allowed to come down here because it was kind of gnarly down here, you know.
Yep.
And then once we got our bikes, we just started going down there anyways. We can go right through it and just, we didn't know we had no idea what was going on, like what was happening down here or anything like that. But, you say you can't go somewhere to a 13, 14-year-old kid. You're telling me to go there because you're like raising this huge curiosity in me now. Now I got to go. So we always used to ride our bikes down here, and like we saw things. I'm not going to say that we didn't see things. Like, there was a lot of crazy things, and this is way before in 2014. This is probably like maybe 2008, maybe even earlier, 2005 maybe.
Yeah, back when it was still pretty gnarly.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like I said, we saw things down here being young kids, just trying to find a place to go skateboard or ride our bikes and whatever. But I always had this crazy desire to be down here. I don't know what it was. It was so intriguing to me. And I love these old buildings. It's like we were just talking about the church here. It's like, when was this built? What did it used to be? Like all the old decor and like building materials are still here in this place. It's like, and it's so well kept. It's awesome. There was always something that pulled me down here, and I don't know what it was. And I moved from here to my Nona's place in the West End because there was a garage there. My first time living on my own, and I started my business in the West End. And then for about 2 years or so, I needed to expand, and the first place I started looking was down here. And the BIA was very active down here to pull me down into this neighborhood. You know, Randy, Carlene, 2J, all those guys. I'm sure you you met them all back then. In 2013 and 14 is when I bought. So 2013, I probably moved down here, or at least was in talks with the landlord at the time. And it was just something that when I first moved down here, it was like I couldn't believe no one else was down here because, like you said, it was tamer. It wasn't this crazy rowdy place like it used to be. Like it wasn't when I was growing up. When I moved here in 2014, it was just like I explain it now. It was a ghost town. Nothing. Boarded up buildings. Street lights were hardly there. No one parked on the street at night. Like there was nothing. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is the craziest. I feel like I'm in my own little island. It's like I'm like playing in a video game, you know. Like there was no one to say I couldn't do anything. There was no one to say that I was being too loud. We used to have crazy parties down here. We were like my group of friends became the life of the neighborhood, and we were skateboarding on the street at night. We set the ramps up. We would be drinking beers out there. Like we would be having. We had bands playing in my shop. You know, I used to bring the speakers out and just play around the sidewalk. We do burnouts on the street. Like we were having some fun, you know. The younger version of me, for sure. We were having some fun down there, and I couldn't believe that nobody else in the city was paying attention to this area. I was like, so I get a lot of credit for a lot of the development that's happened down here, but I don't really think that it was all about the things that I was doing, because I was pulled down here by a group of people, and without those group of people already doing their things, I would have never got here. And so I don't want to take credit for a lot of the big things that have changed in Ford City, but I will say that I think I was a loud Italian guy yelling from my rooftop to the rest of the city, like, how are you not paying attention to Ford City? Like, what are you guys doing?
A real booster.
And then, you know, I've always been obsessed with this neighborhood, even to this day. We were just talking about the buildings that used to be here. Like, you know, I watch YouTube videos, old photos. I love it. I'm obsessed with what this neighborhood used to look like.
You know, it's I don't know if I told you the story about the previous owner of your building, or well, maybe there was an interim owner too. But
was it Nick?
No. Oh, yeah, I remember Nick. But before Nick, there was a guy, Ed Zaleski.
Okay, his name's in my cement.
I've
never. Okay, so it's Ed.
Let me tell you about Ed.
Okay, tell me about Ed. Now I need to know about this.
So Ed had this is old school, and this is like when we moved in here in '97. So
wow, you have been here a long time. I did not even know that.
Yeah. So when we moved in here, and this place was not fixed up.
Right. Yeah.
It fit the rest of the neighborhood at that time. But we just started our church. We'd been going for about 3 years, and this was the place we chose to move for a more permanent setting. And so as I got to know the neighborhood and people in the neighborhood, Marina Clemens was the director of Drouillard Place.
I remember,
And anyways, at the foot of Drouillard Road, right at the river, used to be a big Catholic church. And Ed Zaleski owned that building. He had a business. Back in the day, it was a filing business. Companies would hire them to come and, manage their filing system with, file boxes and file folders. And
makes me itch.
So Ed, by the time we arrived, his business was pretty much dead, but he was still around, and so I'm talking to Ed one day, and he says, your church coming here, this is an answer to prayer. Did you know that? I said, no. He said, I belong to a Catholic prayer group. He was part of the church at the foot of the street there by the river. And he said, we've been praying for this neighborhood for 11 years.
Wow.
And it was out of that Catholic church that Drouillard Place first began. A priest used to come up to the pool hall and associate with people in the neighborhood, and then little by little they developed an agency, and it's still there. But Ed said, your church being here is an answer to prayer. We've been praying for 11 years for this neighborhood. And I talk about a shot in the arm. It's like, and I think about, when we're going to hear a bit about your God story, and that journey. You didn't realize it, but it was actually God inspiring you to come to this area. Not just curiosity, because there's other neighborhoods you could have been.
True.
Yeah, I know you probably are curious about many neighborhoods.
Yeah, well, this one's always been super particular to me.
Yeah. So anyways, Reclaim Artistry, what's that? And I think, have you sold the business, or you're in the process of selling it, or?
No, I went through, so Reclaim Artistry is a custom furniture business that I started in 2011. Started my Nono's Garage, and then eventually moved here, and then eventually worked up our way to having 7 employees working with me, just building super high-end custom furniture in the neighborhood, and that was my entire life. And this year, it felt like there had to be something that I'm calling ripping off the Band-Aid of like, almost like stripping me back of like everything that I've associated myself with, because this big change is getting baptized and stuff at the end of 2013, not 2023, sorry.
Yeah.
Right, and there was it was like, I've been losing steam, not losing steam, but losing the love of what I was doing for work for a while now.
Yep.
And I kind of almost like, I guess, I feel like it like broke me at a certain point. I was like, what am I doing this for? Like, we just found out we're having a baby. We just got married. Like, all these big changes are happening. And I'm like, why am I doing this? And I decided to just send everybody home. And then that's when I realized that I didn't care so much about building furniture anymore. I cared more about building the people in my shop than I did the furniture that we were building. And the reason why I broke is because the people that I was building didn't want to grow anymore. They didn't want to continue to fulfill the places that I was putting them into, right? They didn't want to grow into higher positions and take on more responsibility. So I was like, what am I doing? Because my heart is in training them. It's not in training. It's not in building furniture anymore. So I sent them home. And then I eventually came to that realization that, like, I don't want to rebuild my shop to build more furniture. I want to build my shop just to build the people. So I said, if these guys don't want to grow, I got to go find other woodworkers that want to grow, the guys that, that are out there trying to build a business themselves. So I started coaching other woodworkers that are doing that, right? Like the guys that are actually putting in the hours, actually trying to get the work for themselves, actually trying to grow a business. So I said, I'm going to chase that now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to sell my shop, and, like my shop is like there's automations, there's back-end business systems, there's all these like software built around my shop now that I've had to build so I can continue scaling essentially what I kind of feel like was an unscalable business model. But I was able to, now, like, the shop was sitting there. I was just getting the work done all summer. So I had a for lease sign on my door, and I was kind of like, whatever this is, we tons of prayer about it, like trying to figure out like what is this feeling? Do you have something completely else for me? And if so, like, what is it? Because like I have all of this stuff now and nobody wants it. And I'm like, what do I do with this? And I have a whole shop filled to the brim with woodworking stuff and wood, and I'm like, and I don't even want to go to the shop. So I'm like, for lease signs on the door. And I tried selling it. I couldn't sell it. And I think there was always a part of me that felt like it wasn't, the end goal wasn't to sell it. I don't think I was ever supposed to sell it, but I do think that I needed to go through this very emotionally and like mentally draining year of like not knowing where to go and what to pursue. that I feel like if I didn't go through this year on that fence of do I sell it? Do I keep it? Do I rebuild it? Do I just throw it away? Do I move the
I
shop?
know what your problem is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a heart captured by Jesus.
Yeah.
It's not business as usual.
Yeah, no, it's not. Like I
Yeah.
said, like it's like ripping the Band-Aid off. It was like everything that my
Yeah.
life revolved around changed this year. Like my
Yeah.
entire life has changed this year.
Yeah.
So now, like, you know, I had all this work and I was like, I don't even want to go build this stuff. I'd leave her, go to the shop, be miserable all day building furniture, call her 10 times to complain about it. She's like, you know, like she got so many earfuls of me just complaining and just being like, just mad, being like, why am I building this? So I eventually called one of my main guys back and I just said, we will split the rest of the money, just finish all the work. I don't care how long it takes. Go in on your own time. The wood's there. The tools are there. Everything you need is there. Go do it. I'll pay you half. Finish it up. And he did it, and he loved it.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm in there by myself on my own hours. I'm not redoing anybody else's work. He's like, they're getting done faster than ever before. The quality is through the roof. He's like, no one's bugging me.
Yeah.
You're not bugging me. He's like, this is amazing. So I'm like, well, so once the work was essentially done, we still have a couple of jobs left, but he's like, but what we're working on right now is like, I'm putting him back in. He wants to go back in now. He actually wants to take on a different role now than he did before. Like, and now we're talking about how to invoice a job. Like, this is stuff that was way over his head.
Yeah.
But I think I needed to go through this crazy winding road this year of sell it, don't sell it, keep it, throw it all away, whatever, just to get to the point to rebuild it in a different way that served him more than me. Because that shop served me. Now I want to build it to serve him.
Wow.
In the terms of in business ways, right? And
yeah.
like, I mean, if you want to really tie it back to something, it's like serving someone else. It's like I can serve. There's a bigger purpose behind it.
Yeah.
You know, serving God through this by being so selfless. I'm not even building this business for myself anymore. I'm building it for him.
Well, before we get in too much further, let's introduce Lisa.
Yes.
And so Lisa, just quick run on the CV of what's your business, what kind of things have you been involved in, and then from there let's jump into how the two of you met and where you were both at when you met, and then we'll move forward into what God started doing with that.
Yeah. Okay. So I own a music studio. It's a music school in the East End on Banwell Road here in Windsor.
Yep.
And we do all sorts of different genres and instruments there, and it's really, really fun. I personally taught private piano lessons for 20 years. I started really young, and it was awesome.
Isn't she 20 years old?
Right. Yeah.
Yes, I am 20 years old.
Yeah.
Came out of the womb.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. So the last January, so 1 year ago this Saturday, is when Mike and I got married. Yeah, thank you.
And happy Valentine's Day.
And happy Valentine's Day. Yeah.
Yes.
And so at that point, we had been working with some coaches, I guess, in Texas. And so we'd been flying, back and forth a little bit and just getting some coaching. And people had told me through the years that I can't grow my business if I'm still doing one-on-one piano lessons myself. And I was like, I hear you, I even believe you, but I love what I do. So I just kept doing, and maybe part of it too was I don't know how to break through beyond that. And so last January I decided, okay, I'm gonna figure out how to phase out my lessons and hand them off to other very capable piano teachers at Elite Studios. And so again, we got married January 11, 2024. And by March break, I was running a kids camp and I wasn't feeling so hot and had no idea that we were pregnant. So that answered so many questions of how I was feeling. So I was transitioning out of private lessons and into more of a managerial role and a leadership role to grow the business. But because I wasn't teaching one-on-one lessons, it was a perfect time for me to have morning sickness because I didn't have to be canceling lessons and stuff. So this year has unfolded perfectly for me also because I had just set up some other leadership in place at the studio, which wouldn't have happened otherwise. So that was kind of interesting timing. Very grateful for that timing.
Yeah, cool to look back on that.
Yeah. So how did the two of you, how did you meet each other?
Go ahead,
I get
Michael.
to tell the story. So
I'll be jumping in, make no mistake.
So I saw Lisa on Facebook and I started talking to her, and then I found out that she was teaching piano. So I messaged her after talking to her a couple of times and her probably blowing me off. I was like, teach me how to do this. Like, she's posted some crazy video of her playing piano, and I'm like, I want to learn how. Show me how to do this. And she said, come in on this day and I'll show you. I'm like, wow, okay, this is amazing. So we literally play piano, and then she's like, hey, we want to do this again next week. I said, okay, perfect. And I'm thinking like we're gonna start dating or something, right? She's like, sweet, I got a new student. So we come back. I come back the next week, and I mean, we weren't talking throughout the week, but she's like, you got a lesson coming up. So I'm like, okay. Like, I was kind of confused, and after the second lesson, she's like, so what do you want to do? Do you want to continue playing? Like, do you want to continue learning how to play piano? And I said yes. And I actually did, because I actually wanted to learn, because I was actually really enjoying the piano, but I was there originally just to talk to her. Yep. So, I over all this time, I was like, subtly dropping hints, like, hey, like, I'm kind of interested in you. And for 8 months, I took lessons. I took lessons for 8 months, and I got declined I don't know how many times. She wouldn't hang out with me. We wouldn't go out. She wouldn't go out with me. She wouldn't do anything with me or anything like that.
Well, there's a line of professionalism.
Right, 100%. And she nailed it.
Teachers shouldn't date their student.
I agree. I agree.
I was very professional.
100%. So she was my piano teacher, but like,
you were hot for teacher.
I was hot for teacher. Yeah, for sure. Like, my whole family knew about Lisa. I talked to Lisa I talked to my whole family about Lisa way before they even met her. So when she finally came around, my whole family already knew everything about her. Oh boy. So after I think it was whatever. I was obsessed. So she set the new standard when I met her. I was like, I didn't want anybody else. So when there was one Christmas, I mean, you could probably start telling the snowboarding trip now.
Oh, okay. So
So she's my teacher. I'm the student.
Yes. So I'm at home on a Sunday night, sifting through Airbnb, and I just loved looking at different opportunities, different experiences. And I found this one that looked so awesome up in Blue Mountain in Collingwood. Oh, yeah. And it's a very well-known snowboard town. Yeah. And I was like, this would be such a sick spot to stay. Yeah. And it was a huge mansion, way too much money. But if you found enough people, well, now it's affordable and you're all there together. There's more than enough space. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to put it on hold. So I reserved it, not knowing reserve means you just bought the place. So I wake up the next morning to a $10,000 charge on my credit card. Whoa. And I just about passed out. Yeah. And so I was like, no problem. This has been like 9 hours on my credit card. So I'll just call Airbnb and I'll just cancel it. Yeah. The problem was it was booked for the following weekend. This is Monday. Your trip starts on Friday. And I'm like, am I nuts? So I'm like, but you realize I just booked this like 8 hours ago. I fell asleep, woke up, called you. I'm sorry. Our policy is. So there was no refund for Lisa. And my credit card is in the grave now. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I go into the studio and I'm talking to our administrator. And I said, any chance you'd like to coast snowboarding on the weekend? And I said, this is what happened. And she said, actually, I'd be down. Like, I'll pay my part. And like, yeah, we'll go. I'll ask some friends. Yep. We couldn't find people to come. It was just the two of us girls. And I'm like, this is going to be a very expensive weekend. Michael Difazio shows up on Tuesday
for his lesson.
And
with a snowboard under his arm.
No, I'll get to that. usually it's all piano talk. And if he tries
Yeah.
talking about other stuff, it's, thank you, have
Shut
a nice
down
day.
over and over again.
Make sure you're practicing your piano. But I'm in a different headspace because I'm freaking out. So I share with my student, this is what's up. And it's this weekend. If you know anyone, let me know. He's like, well, I'm in. And I'm going to get all my friends to come. We're going to fill how many spots do you need to fill? I'm going to fill spots. He's calling friends in Alberta.
Oh, I was calling everybody. I'm like, we're
He's
making
like,
this vacation happen. I'm going on a snowboarding trip with my future wife. I'm like,
For anybody listening, that's entrepreneurial.
yeah. I did not give up on that.
Yes.
So I completely hijacked her entire trip because it was her and the administrator and then like 8 of my friends, because I was like, I'll fill this whole house. I'll call everybody. Like I said, I was calling everybody I knew. So I had friends from Hamilton. I had friends from LaSalle, or Amherstburg, all over the place. I was calling everybody because I was going to make this trip happen no matter what, because I was like, this is my shot.
Yeah.
This is my shot. And
so now from a safety perspective, I'm like, what have I done? Our studio administrator, she was fantastic, but she was like 21 years old. And there's 8 guys who we don't know. I mean, I kind of know Michael from lessons, but we don't know the rest. So I get all motherly and worried about safety, I think, and rightly so.
Yeah.
And so on the way down, I'm telling, her name's Taya, the studio administrator. I'm telling her, like, as soon as we get there, we're sitting all these guys down. I'm saying, if any of you even so much as look at her, you have me to deal with. Well, on the way down, it's a 5-hour trip.
Yeah.
And very quickly, I realized that these guys are not your average guys. They have so much integrity. They're good quality guys.
Yeah.
The one that drove down, Tony, he owns a garage gym. He was even friends with Taya's dad in the police force because he was on the SWAT team. And just the whole vibes, I was like, it would be a slap in the face to sit them. I have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Which spoke highly of Michael. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, so this is the company that you keep. Right?
Yeah.
And so long story short, long story long, we just ended up having an awesome time on this trip. I mean, first time down the hill, I was already thinking there's no way Mike is going to keep up with us.
I've been on a snowboard one time before this.
Yeah, and I like to snowboard all the time. So I'm like, well, I'll see you at the end of the day. And
Like in my rental board, my rental boots and my rental everything. I'm going to go down the hill.
Mr. Rental over here gets to the top of the hill.
So how long did it take to get out the bunny hill?
Oh, I didn't even go to the bunny. She went right to the top. I said, I'm coming with you. So I went to the top, and I'm sitting at the top, and I'm looking at the first hill, and I'm like, I'm going to die making this happen. But I'm going to make it to the bottom of this hill, even if it kills me.
Yeah.
Took me a while, but I did it.
Oh man, this sounds like a movie plot.
Yeah.
My mom tells him now, like, Mike, you had to do that to get her because I can get a little bit snooty if boys can't keep up. And it was life or death. He kept up.
I was going.
I was so impressed with his guts to just send it. And I mean, he sent it down the hill.
Yeah.
And we just had a blast. And from there,
Skateboarding probably helped.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
'Cause you learned how to balance, but now you're on an angle like this.
Yeah,
all
and
the
your feet are clipped in. That's the thing that always gets me so bent
Yeah.
out of shape. I can't move my feet. On a skateboard, I can move my feet. On a snowboard, you're locked in.
Yeah.
But my butt hurt. My butt hurt after that.
Yeah.
I kept
spent a
falling on my
lot of
butt.
time on- yeah.
So yeah.
Always the first day.
Yeah.
After that though, we spent pretty much every single day together. Like it was like the next day, the day after that, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, "This is amazing." One thing after the next. We just hung out every single day since, and like we're obsessed with each other. So
So what year was that?
2021 January.
Was it 21?
Yeah.
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 No, 22.
20.
January 2022.
Yeah, we're in 2020.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, 25.
You started
yeah.
lessons in
Okay.
21.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I started lessons in 21. Took me 8 months to go on a snowboarding trip.
That's
Okay,
right.
so that's how you met.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how you met.
So I
Wow.
married my piano teacher. Yes.
Right on. Right on.
Yeah.
I hate when you say that.
Yeah. I get to tell the story now. I got my piano teacher.
So okay, now your Reclaim Artistry is going, and I kept looking for excuses every once in a while to just drop in and see how you're doing. Just kind of think, wonder what if God would be up to anything.
Right.
And one time, sometimes I had teams of people that would come here to the church, and I would give them a tour of the neighborhood, a walking tour. And I remember a couple times stopping by your place and saying, "Hey, I got 15 people here. Can I just steal a little bit of your time and give a tour, just give them the 5-minute pitch about what you do here. And then we'd go out on the sidewalk after you did that, and I'd say, reclaim artistry. Isn't that such a metaphor for what God does? Because you're one of the things in the early days of Reclaim was that you had this whole industrial vibe where you'd get these mammoth machine parts as big as this table, and you say, okay, there's a base, and then you'd put some thick oak or something on top of it, and you'd make these really cool pieces. I remember in the front window you had an old clawfoot bathtub that you cut the side out and made a couch.
I've seen a photo of that.
Yeah, it's so fun.
And that was such a metaphor that we understood as a church, because we came into this grungy old bar and reclaimed the space. And then I remember talking to you on occasion here and there, and I remember one time you reached out to me and you said, hey, you had some curiosity about the Bible and wanted to get a Bible. And I think that's probably where my prayer life notched up just a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And and then all of us, end of 2019 into 2021, going through that crazy time of the pandemic, and everybody's freaking out, and everybody's isolating, and everybody's falling apart. But that had quite an effect on you, didn't it? And so let's talk a little bit about how God got your attention.
Okay, so this was like a little bit of I can kind of piece the timeline together, but up until 2019, I would have been like, what year was that? I would have been like 28, 2019. I would have been 28. I would have been 28 years old.
Yep.
And then 2019 up until then, I went to a Catholic school, but I went to Catholic grade school and high school, but to be honest with you, going through that school system like that, I feel like all that made me do was just push everything away so hard, push it. The more you push, the more I'm pushing back, and I was just fine. I'm gonna push back. I'll push back. I'll push back.
Yeah.
To the point where I was so far away, and I would almost make it known because people would push. My grandma or my mom would push, and I would be like, it was like a huge rebellion against it. I would almost push back even further. And 2020 happened, pandemic and all of this, lockdowns, and conspiracy lane just starts, right? You start what is actually going on? Are they telling me the truth? Is this the truth? Is that the truth? Is this person evil? Is that all of these things? Yeah. And I have this thing that I say now that I'm here where I'm at is if you're a conspiracy theorist long enough, you'll eventually read the Bible, because when you're a conspiracy theorist, at that point, it keeps leading to just darker and darker and darker places. And I believe 2020, I was scared at first, and then I went completely reverse on that. But I was still in that conspiracy area. I was like, how do you beat this? How do you beat the system out? How do you end up on the other side? What is the other side? You start going down this road of what can I even do? Who can I actually trust? I can't trust the medical system. I can't trust the government. Can't trust the banking industry. Can't trust anything. I can't trust nothing at all. And it kept just pointing out to me it was something. I'm saying something because back then it was something is pushing me to read the Bible or search more deeply spiritually to just find something. So I messaged you because you're the only person I actually knew that I knew, and I literally knew you from the neighborhood, and that was it. You were the guy that had the church to me then. Yeah. And I didn't even, pastor wasn't even a word I knew. Yeah. Right? It was just you're the guy with the church down the street. I'm going to talk to him. Yeah. I know he's church Bible. I'm going to ask him. So I asked you what Bible I should buy or something along those lines. And you told me, I don't remember what it was, but I ended up going to Amazon, buying this big Bible in a fancy case, and it was like more of like a study Bible kind of thing.
Yep.
I had no idea what I was buying. Bought the Bible, and it literally sat in the box for years after that. And then I kind of just went on about my day and got busy again. But there was something, I'm saying again, something now, because back then I didn't know what it was. Something was tugging at me. It's like the universe. I started meditating. I started doing breath work. I started looking at like Buddhism and Hinduism and thisism and thatism and all of these things. And I remember thinking to myself, like, the only thing that I don't want this to be is what it actually ended up being. I was like, it can be anything else. It can be anything else. I would be happy with it being anything else. And it was like dead end, dead end, dead end, dead end, dead end, dead end. And I got, like I said, I got busy. You got busy. Businesses, you get busy. Like, you start to focus everything you have on business. So I got back to my streamline for another couple years. And then I started dating Lisa. And at this point, I'm still just rampant. Like, I'm just a wild animal, essentially. Like, that's kind of how I feel like that whole, you know, when I talk about hanging out on the street and playing in the bands and doing the things I used to do, I just felt like I was a wild animal. Like,
now you're taking piano lessons. And going down the biggest slope. First timer.
Yeah, first timer. Let's go. So I started dating Lisa. We're hanging out every day, and you know, I have all these questions, so I start questioning things, and she has some of the answers, but she doesn't want to talk about it because of like the things that she's gone through. So she's not in my head. Nobody's in my head, but well, I know who's in my head. But like God was in my head. God was pushing me down a certain path, but I had no answers. I had nobody to talk to, so I would just talk to her, and she'd be like, "Why don't you look it up?" And I'm like, "I don't want to look it up. I just want you to tell me." So she would tell me a little bit.
Me crazy. This is answer every single
That's
time.
my answer still to everything this day. I don't want to look it up on Google. Just tell me what it is, you know. Or like, I don't want to read this. I don't want to read that. Just you tell me. I don't even want any other explanation. I just want your explanation. Yeah. So, more and more of that was happening, right? And I start, you know, entertaining the idea of God, Jesus, the Bible, like, you know, all of this. And there was a couple key people in my, like, this, there was a lot of that with Lisa, to the point where she was eventually like, "I'm not answering your questions anymore." She puts a Bible down, this pink Bible, like this big.
It was a pink metal Bible.
Pink metal Bible.
It was very cool when I was 14, 15 years
old. It literally looks like it's been through war. It looked like it's been through a war. It's all scratched. It's like, it's got like highlighter and underline marks and notes on the side. Like, pages are written. I'm like, what happened to this book?
Okay,
like,
pages were not ripped out, but there were
not
highlights.
ripped out. No, but it was just like, it was so used.
Well worn.
It was well worn. That's the perfect word for that. So I started reading that. And then we went to a wedding, and then there was a guy there that I met through the pandemic, through like essentially you could call it the resistance, or, you know, the people that were protesting against it, the people that were helping the no more lockdown movement and stuff like that. Yeah. And I started talking to him about it, and I mean, he said some things that really spoke to me, where I needed, in the way that I needed to be spoken to at that time. Yeah. And like, I mean, I'll say it in a different way so it makes more sense for the show, but it's essentially like Jesus like isn't like a wimpy kind of like soft character. Then he said Jesus is literally the commander of God's army. Yeah. And I was like, I got camo pants on. I got army backpacks and stuff. You know, like I like having knives, and, you know, like I like learning jujitsu. Like I like be like the warrior kind of mindset. Yeah. And I was like, that's cool. Yeah. I'm like, tell me more about that. Yeah. So he invited me to a Bible study, and that's the first time I ever really looked at anything along these lines before. And I started paying attention a little bit, started hearing things differently. But this was like an all men's Bible study. A lot of those men were like men's men. You know what I mean? They weren't soft. They were just
no kumbaya.
No kumbaya. I don't need kumbaya, man. I didn't come from kumbaya. I needed like hard dudes to be like, this is the way right here. You want to know how to get out of all this crap? This is the way. Yeah. So I started going there, and then we went to Kingston, and I met my good buddy Angus. Angus was a super cool guy from Australia, does everything from sailing to hang gliding to scuba diving to everything, like everything ever. So he's just this crazy cool guy. I loved him.
Yeah.
And I was like, who is this guy? And he started just saying things. He said a couple things. He said, we're in her parents' boat, and he says something along the lines of like, we were talking about business and stuff, and there was the one word, actually he said something to you, yeah. He said, we were talking about business, and he goes, man, it sounds like you need to call on the big guns. And I'm like, the big guns? I'm like, who is the big guns? And I'm like, peace, because I didn't even know Angus was a believer. I didn't know Angus. Like, I just met this guy, this crazy cool guy, and I'm like, big guns. And I'm like, tell me more about this big guns. And he starts talking about
that hit you so hard.
That hit me, and it was like I needed to hear things in a different way.
Yeah.
And that's a long story short. Like, that's actually the guy that baptized me in Kingston in the water, in the lake.
In what time of year?
January 29th. 2023.
No, December.
December 29th. It was freezing. It was the coldest water I've ever been in.
There was ice around the edges of that lake that day.
Yeah. But
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
My name is Michael.
Yeah, right.
Hardcore Baptist.
Yeah. Hardcore Baptist. Yeah, it's like cold plunge right to Jesus. Yep. Yeah, but I don't even remember what the question was. I'm just kind of going into the story of like how
So this is the journey to Jesus is really where you're tracking here. Yeah.
Right. So I guess before the baptism, I guess, right? Like, I'm hearing Angus saying these things. I'm talking to Angus a little bit more about it. I'm going to this Bible study. Like, I'm hearing things, and actually this is the key part, I guess. The Bible study, we were studying, I think it was Luke. Was it Luke?
I don't
remember what it was. It was like the first time I ever opened a book. They were like, turn to Luke chapter what? And I'm like looking at the guy. I'm like, which page is that? Like, there's like 4,000 pages in this book. Yeah, who's Luke? Yeah, I didn't know.
Luke?
I knew. She talks about the way that I first started reading the Bible, and she's like, it's hilarious watching somebody who doesn't know any of this read it for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I'm reading about John the Baptist. I'm like, so in this book, like in this story, there's just a hippie dude in the woods with a beard and wearing rags. I'm like, who is this guy? But like, this is how I'm just reading it. Like Lisa says, I'm authentic
like
to
you see it. Yeah.
I'm like, there's a hippie living in the woods, and this guy is like baptizing Jesus. Like, I'm like, what is going on? It was just, there's all sorts of things like that like, like these guys laugh at, but I'm like, this is the most interesting book I've ever read in my life.
But we also laugh because we're like, you're right, and I've read it so many times in my life that it doesn't even hardly faze me anymore.
Right.
And then he says it so authentically like that. I'm like, oh, you're right. He is a hippie in the woods. You're right.
There's a couple parts like that I'm like, that's how this ends? Like, what? Anyway.
Yeah.
So I believe it was Luke. Anyways, inside the few verses that we were going through studying, double-minded kept coming up. Double-minded. Like, I read it, and it was just like, it was one of those things that like that saying was standing off the page every time we read it. It was like stabbing me in the heart. I'm like, what is this? Double-minded. And at the time I was doing some sort of workout program. I had to walk outside every day for 45 minutes, no matter what the weather was like. So it's in the middle of winter. It's pitch black. I'm on the hill by our condo, the hill just on Banwell there. I'm at the top of the hill with my dog. It's freezing cold, and I'm just like, look, I think it was what it was is I was just feeling convicted the entire time.
Yeah.
Every time I read that, it was like double-minded. It's like I want to believe, but I'm confused, or I'm like this close. And I'm like, what is it? So because I started getting like frustrated because we were studying Luke for weeks, and like and it's in there multiple times. And I'm like, what is it? Like, what do you need me to do? What needs to happen? What needs to change? What do I need to do different? Like, what is it? Like, just so I can feel that you're real. And I'm sitting there, I'm frustrated, and I get a text message in my phone, and I never have my phone off airplane mode when I'm walking. I want it on airplane mode. I just want it there for the timer.
Yeah.
My phone isn't on airplane mode for some reason, so I actually get a text message come through. It's like, pops up, it's my Aunt Teresa. She sends me 1,000 messages a day. Like, I don't even open most of them. We probably all have people like that in our lives, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I put it back in my pocket, and I'm like, to my Aunt Teresa, crazy story. Like, lived on the streets, all the drugs you can imagine, like very crazy story. And in the recent, I don't even know, maybe 5 years, she's come completely to Christ, like complete 180. It's crazy. You maybe get her on this.
Whisper her last name.
Morgan.
Yeah, I know her.
You know her.
Yeah, she's been here to church here.
She's amazing. I love her so much. I love her so much.
She's a sweetheart.
She's a sweetheart, but she's huge personality, huge voice.
Yeah.
But like and she was the one sending me this message, and like I know her story, and I'm like, I'm sitting here on the hill talking to God, essentially just ranting, like frustrated. Text message come through. My phone is always on airplane mode. It wasn't for some reason. Pick it up. Oh, it's my Aunt Teresa. I'm frustrated. I put my phone back in my pocket. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, Aunt Teresa's really close to God. Mm-hmm. And I put my phone back out, and I opened the text message, and I just pressed play, and a song played. And it was, I don't even know, it was so cold I couldn't even see the video because like my eyeballs were freezing.
It was called I'm Coming Home.
It was Coming Home, the song Coming Home, and that starts playing, and I can't even watch the video, and I just start bawling my eyes out. And I'm bawling my eyes out, but I'm laughing. And I'm like, what is even happening? And I'm like, I'm laughing and I'm bawling, like I'm talking bawling. And I'm like, I'm walking down this hill, pitch black, me and my dog. No one's around, no one's here. And I'm like, good thing. I'm like, who's this sobbing idiot coming down the hill, right? But like, I was like, I still can't even explain the feeling that it was today, but it was like, I felt power that just completely consumed me and like squeezed me, and it was like it wasn't sadness, it wasn't happiness. I can't explain anything other than what it was. It's just like it was the craziest feeling of my life, and I was like, this can't be anything else other, because this song I've heard it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
It's like I pull up the video later, it's like not even in English, like there's like a video playing, but it was the song. And I just, like, I'm bawling my eyes out laughing. Like, I'm bawling my eyes out, like, so sad, but so relieved and so happy. And so, like, I can't explain anything. But it was like this huge gush of just power. And it was like, there is nothing that I want now that other than I just crave that feeling again.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I was like, I had to call Angus. I had to tell Lisa. I was like, whatever just happened is unexplained. I can't even put words to it. And I think that's the coolest part. I actually can't explain it. Wow. That's the coolest part to me.
Yeah.
And then Angus starts talking to me about he's like, I believe like that 100% that was God. Like, I was asking for it. I wasn't saying like, do I believe in you or not? I'm just like, I was frustrated maybe, but
the comforter has come.
So he just I felt this incredible feeling like that, and I think it was either that day or the next couple of days after that, like Angus over the phone, because he's up in Kingston, kind of verbally we pray, we give my life to Christ, I guess. And the coolest part about this is Lisa knew and Angus knew. My mom didn't know, her parents didn't know, nobody knew. And to be honest with you, I needed to go down that entire journey by myself.
Yeah.
I didn't have her influence. I had her answers.
Yeah.
But she didn't even want to give me the answers because of her story, how she like kind of, the church kind of pushed her away. She pushed herself away from the church. She separated a little bit, kind of went down her own path, but she had the answers that I was looking for.
Yeah.
But I needed to experience everything that I experienced on my own.
Wow.
So that was in October something. And then 2 months later, I ended up getting baptized with her parents, surprising her parents in the link, because they're very big believers. They're believers. They're all in it. And I wanted to just kind of say and that was another reason why I didn't want to talk to them about it. I didn't want outside influence. I only wanted it from the man himself, essentially. Like I needed to feel it from him. And now it's like there's no denying it. To be honest with you, I'm at the point now where I hope everybody gets to just experience that.
Yeah.
So cool, man. It was incredible.
Well, let's hold it there for a minute, and I want to talk to Lisa because you grew up in the church, and you can tell a little bit about that, and but there was also this journey away from home, right? not just moving away from your family to move to Windsor a few years ago, but in terms of what you went through in terms of church and all this stuff. So talk a bit about your journey away from home, and how unnerving was it when this spiritual awakening started happen in Mike, and was that something that you had just kind of put into cold storage, or what was going on with you?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. I grew up completely opposite to Mike. He grew up in the ghetto. I grew up in Sunday school, and I had even moving here. I was I did a ton of music back in Kingston. I was doing big, concerts and what do you call it, like ATF kind of thing, like
Acquire the Fire.
Yeah, like big shows and stuff.
Yeah.
All Christian based. And I went to Toronto for the School of Ministry. I did the music program there. And so that was my life. And then moving here to Windsor, I got involved with a local church by the airport here. And I loved playing on the music team. But long story short, a lot of stuff happened there. First off, I got kicked off the music team there for doing fitness competitions, which is its own story. And I just thought, that doesn't seem right to me. But, a series of things. When I went through my own hardest time in my life, everybody pushed me away there. And it was very, very difficult to see. I could talk for an hour just on different ways that I felt betrayed by the church, and just very disappointed in people that I really looked up to in Christian leadership. So I went off, and I'm a very social person. So I really needed people to talk to, but all of my closest friends, who are all Christians, had basically disowned me.
That's a shame.
So I didn't know where to go. So where do you go? You go to coffee shops in the daytime, and you go to bars at night. And that's the only people that would talk to me. Even friends that were couples. My ex had left me, which was that own story. And when that happened, all of my friends that we were couples with didn't want a single woman coming into their home anymore. So I really just had to find my own group of friends, which became just in the world. So I was doing my own thing, and definitely pushed away the church, felt very betrayed and let go by God. And so I just pushed it away and buried it. I'm fine.
You're good.
Yeah. Well, that's very, very hard to go through those kind of rejection and sometimes even betrayal experiences. And for a lot of people, when that happens, that becomes the new storyline of, that's what God's about. That's what, or if you separate, Jesus from the church, you say, that's what church is about. I don't want anything to do with it if you're just going to get hurt, right?
Yeah. And it's funny you say that's your new story, because growing up the way I did, I was always envious of people like Michael, who had some gnarly upbringing in some way, or had some kind of thing happen to them at some point in their life. And then they found Jesus. I never had that, because I grew up singing "Jesus Loves Me."
You grew up in the bubble, right?
Yes. And now I have a story, and I really do. So it's be careful what you ask for. You want a story? I'll give you a story. But there's a price to pay for that story. Right. So anyway, to bring it back around to Michael's experience on the hill. And that whole, since 2020, that pulling and drawing closer and closer. I was watching him, and I knew nobody was talking to him. Nobody from the Christian circles was talking to him at all. I certainly wasn't talking to him.
I didn't even want to talk. And to be honest, I didn't even want to talk to any of them at that point. If you would have came to me saying, Jesus loves me, all that, at that time in my life, I would have been leave me alone. I'm good.
Yeah. And so Mike started asking me questions about Christianity, about God, about the Bible. And I knew the answer in here.
Yeah.
And I'd just kind of be like, okay, I'd tell him the answer, like reciting, you know, whatever, Jeremiah 29:11, like it's all in there somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was just kind of watching him and answering questions, and that was it.
Yeah.
But then I started to see that something very real was happening, and it wasn't from anybody. And I had people in my life that were way too pushy, and
Yeah.
the same thing. It's like, you know, when magnets do the opposite of when they repel, it's
Yeah.
that feeling.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Right. And
Yeah.
so when I saw Mike come back from this walk on the hill, just wrecked, he comes through the door. I'm like, what happened to you? And he just tells me, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm watching something so authentic. I'm watching literally just the true connection of God and human. And
Yeah.
it was so true and real.
Yeah.
And I had seen so much that people would say and you know that people would do that were just, I had really lost that trust and that connection. And so watching Michael's experience is what started to bring me back and to be open, not necessarily to the church as a whole, but because I'm very like guarded, I suppose, but being open to God and being open
That's key.
which
right
is
there.
the point. And so it's been a very crazy journey and very special thing to watch Mike, and who's now and should be the spiritual leader of our family. And you know, every morning when I sit down with my coffee, he grabs my hand and he prays for us and for our food and for the day, and you know, he just has really taken the lead there, which is something that I always wanted. And as a woman, you can't ever tell a man to be like, you have to be, you can't. It's something you just have to like let go of and let God to do that work.
So he comes down from the hill. What happened to you? Shortly after that, you're up in Kingston. He gets baptized in the Cold Lake.
Yes.
And I mean, you guys have been together for how long now?
2 years at that point.
Yeah,
2
at
years
that point, we were dating for 2 years. Yeah.
And living together and living as a couple.
Yeah.
And so after you got baptized, what else transpired in your relationship?
Okay, so this is where the things start. So it actually happens a little bit before that. So we right from snowboarding trip to me getting baptized, we pretty much lived. Like I said, we spent every single day together. Like we practically started living together. You know, we're sleeping together. We're every single day we're together. And I don't know, after about a year and a half, we started talking about, you know, we were engaged. After about a year and a half, we got engaged. We started talking about having kids and whatnot, but like we're busy, so we're not really focused 100% on anything. We're just kind of like, we're focused on work, talked about kids a couple of times, and, you know, we're like, how have we not had a kid? Like, what is going on, right? We've been together for this long. We're together every night. And
you wanted to have a kid, right?
Well, we wanted to. So Lisa started getting tested for like, we started going through fertility testing. Like, what is happening?
Why are you not getting pregnant?
How are we not getting pregnant? That was the thing that I think right now. It's like, how are we not? Like, that makes something's not making sense. So I don't know if it was 6 months or 8 months worth of testing for Lisa. Like, it was a lot,
and it was like emotionally a lot, physically a lot, and all that to say, to keep getting referred to the next guy up. Like, sorry, I can't help you go to this guy. Sorry, I can't help you go to that guy. And so we ended up with quite a notable fertility doctor here. I've been told that people fly in from all over the world to see him. And finally, when all the testing was done, he brings us in. And do you mind if I say your part? Or just
go.
Okay. So he says, Lisa, I hate to tell you, but you have just about a 0% chance of having kids. Even if I pumped you full of everything I've got, IVF-wise and everything. He said, I still wouldn't do it based on ethical reasons because your chances would be so low. He said, so really the only chance for you is if you got an egg donor or something like that, which we can do, but I was brokenhearted because that means I can't have a child that's my own blood.
Yeah.
But yet for Michael, it would be half Mike's. But then he turns to Mike and goes, you work out? He goes, yeah. He goes, you take steroids, like you're on test or something? He goes, are you kidding? It's like, no, if I had to give myself a needle, I'd puke.
Yeah.
That's what he says.
Yeah, because I don't like needles,
He
man.
does not like needles.
No, that's not my thing.
And so he's like, why are you asking me that? And he goes, well, your testosterone levels are through the roof, but your motility in your sperm count is like nothing.
Zero.
You have zero.
I had a 0.
It was literally a 0. So he goes, now, Mike, you I can work with. If I put you on a few things, you'll be good to go within a year. But Lisa, it's only, you got to get an egg donor. So we were kind of, brokenhearted and like, why is that happening? We're both very healthy people, very fitness focused and eat well. Like, what the heck? And so we just kind of put it on the back burner. That was in October. We decided like, we'll reopen that at some point.
Yeah.
December, Michael decides to get baptized. 13 days later, so he comes out of the icy cold lake. We get in the truck. We're driving along the road, bumpy road, getting out of the lake area. And he goes, Lise, we can't keep doing what we're doing. Like, I can't touch you. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we have a good thing going. What do you mean? What do you mean? We're going to wait like a year as we plan a wedding? He's like, I think we got to just go to City Hall and elope or whatever. So 13 days later, my parents drive up from Kingston.
Like
and
last minute.
Like you have 2 days notice. Can you come? And we go to City Hall. We get married. And by the end of, so that's January 11, 2024.
Yeah.
By the end of the month, we were pregnant. And here he is.
Pearson,
starting to wake
is
up.
he awake?
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta bring Pearson up here.
Oh, yeah. So I guess like the thing that's, I mean, she said we got pregnant at that point, but we didn't know what was going on. There was no eggs left. Like there was no eggs left for us to eat.
Impossible.
It was impossible.
You're not having a baby.
Yeah.
Yep.
So she told, so the doctor said there's a 0% chance for her, 0% chance for me. And like I had, like she said, they could pump me full of everything to make me work again, but there's still nothing for me to work with.
Right.
So it was a 0 chance for us to ever have kids. But I got baptized. It was the hardest 13 days of my life, like being next to Lisa and like, going from a life that we were used to into like, moving into where we were at. And we were like, we have to get married now. So we eloped. We just did it. It was my parents, her parents. That was it. And honestly, it was awesome.
It was a great day. Yeah.
And within 2 weeks after that, like,
yeah, we had no interventions at all.
None.
We didn't go back to see the doctor at all.
We forgot about it all.
And what Mike said is like, okay, I was obedient and we got married and we immediately got pregnant after being together for 2 years. We got pregnant within 2 weeks.
Wow. Doing it it's almost like, if you want to do things my way, I'll give you what you want. Because like there's a couple of times reading the Bible in a couple stories in the Bible, they like so-and-so, I don't remember names or anything. I'm really bad with names. But so-and-so's...
I'm Kevin.
yeah. Hey, Kevin.
Luke is around here somewhere.
Yeah, Luke, yeah. That's funny. A couple of times in the Bible, people they pray for kids. I can't have kids. I pray for kids, and then I have a kid. In Old Testament, I believe it's all in the Old Testament. Anyways, so I'm like, I remember sitting in the sauna one day at the gym after we just got married, and I literally prayed. And I'm like, you've done it before. It's documented in the Bible. Like, I'm praying now for a kid.
Yeah.
And then just kind of left it at that. I prayed, I believe, 2 times for that. And we got pregnant. But the cool part about this is we didn't know we were pregnant until the 3rd month. So we missed our entire first trimester because we completely wrote it off.
And I just thought I was dying and sick for no reason.
Well, she was so sick for 3 months. So February, March, April, she was so sick. But the doctors knew where we stood. Yeah. They knew we weren't able to get tested. So they were testing her for anemia, They were giving her iron pills. They were giving her all of these drugs. They never even got her tested, not a single time for pregnancy.
Because they were like, there's no point in even thinking about testing you.
You're not going to get pregnant.
We know you can't get pregnant. Yeah.
Right. So, long story short, baptized, married, and then right away we got pregnant.
Yeah.
And then there was no eggs left. Like, he wouldn't even go in to scrape for eggs because there was none in there.
Right.
Which is the craziest part for me. So we got a little miracle baby here.
A miracle and a half. It like from 00, we call it from 00 chance.
To this little handsome ham.
My goodness.
Yeah.
You're on the podcast.
So we're extremely blessed, man. It's been the most insane year of my entire life.
Wow. Well, Pearson, welcome to your first podcast.
Yeah. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, you're a miracle.
Yes, you are.
Wow. And, the thing I love about miracles is everybody that can't have a baby that prays doesn't always get to have a baby.
No.
That's right.
That's true.
But the personal things that God does when he shows up in a miraculous way, or when somebody gets healed of something that there's no answers for, it's like that changes us when we experience God's personal touch, and growing up in the church. I mean, I grew up in the church. I grew up in the bubble too.
Yep.
Everybody's story is different, but the God never lost sight of you, Lisa, and he saw what you went through, and he saw how it was devastating you and just tearing you up, but he did a sneak attack.
Yeah.
Some kind of ninja commando
Yeah,
sneak
right.
attack.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you, like how in the world God snuck up on you? What a wonderful story.
Yeah, it's awesome. I really, like I said, I hope that everybody gets to experience what I've experienced, because like there's it's unexplainable. Like I can't explain it. I can't even explain the feelings of it, but it's this feeling of like peace that I can't even describe, and it's amazing.
Something that I think God is teaching you guys is about his timing.
Yeah.
And you said, if we need to go his way, we need to have this submissive heart to say, okay, what am I supposed to do? And if it's not going to happen, how do I wait? And when I first approached you, this is how it happened. I go on Facebook and, Mike just got baptized.
Yeah.
I gotta get a hold of Mike.
Yeah.
And I got a hold of you, and you started to unpack this story, and if it wasn't then, it was the next time I saw you. I said, hey, would you like to come on? I got a podcast. Would you want to come on and tell the story? And learning to submit and to wait. You said, well, I'd love to do that, but the story is still being written.
Yeah.
And at that point, you knew that Pearson was coming, and you said, let's wait until after he's born.
Yeah.
And
the proof.
Yeah, the proof. The proof.
Yeah.
And, God has given both of you undeniable proofs that make sense to you more than to anybody else.
100%.
But I just want to thank you guys for coming on today. And I can't believe how good Pearson's being, man.
Yeah.
He's not stealing the spotlight here with crying and wailing, but yeah, you got a good son there.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. He's amazing. Yeah.
Mike and Lisa, thank you so much for being on Sidewalk, Skyline podcast, and I can't wait. Well, I can wait. I will wait to see
timing.
to see what God has in store for you guys, what he's going to do next.
And we're very excited for those things.
Thank you. Thanks so much for
Yeah,
having us on,
thanks for having
Kevin.
us, man.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Great rehearsal, guys.
The end.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Great
go.
rehearsal.
Awesome.
Well, that was a fascinating conversation with Mike and Lisa. And on the next episode, we're going to be talking with Rick Heemstra from the Evangelical Fellowship of Canada and a return guest, Andy Gabrick, whose book Infobesity has just been released. On this next episode, there's a real challenge in the information age to be able to live as real people in a tangible physical world when the digital world is creating a realm of fantasy that sometimes takes us away from what's real. And so we're going to have a bit of a deep dive conversation about technology and how it affects us as followers of Jesus. What are the digital sins that we commit that we need to confess to? What are the ways that we can safeguard our humanity and live as real people, God's new humanity in this world? So come back on our next episode. You've been listening to Sidewalk, Skyline podcast. I'm Kevin Rogers, and I'm so glad that you listened in.